Hi, everyone, and welcome to our webinar titled How El Paso's Ysleta Independent School District Boosted College Readiness with Targeted TSIA2 Prep. My name is Jordan Friedman, and I'm a director here at MasteryPrep, and we're excited to have you all join us and to get started. For those of you who aren't familiar with MasteryPrep, we're a company offering a standards-aligned system to prepare students for state-required assessments that are a part of accountability models. In today's webinar, we'll be looking at how Ysleta Independent School District dramatically raised the percentage of students scoring college ready in just 1 year by enhancing their TSIA2 test preparation strategies. Joining us are Richard Kudir, Director of Advanced Academics at Ysleta, and Terry Berrigan, Advanced Academics Instructional Specialist. Throughout the webinar, if you have any questions for Richard and Terry, please put those in the Q&A chat, and we'll be spending a few minutes at the end of the webinar addressing your questions. And now I'm excited to pass it off to Richard and Terry, who will introduce themselves, and we'll get started.
Awesome. So good morning, everybody. My name is Richard Kudir. I am the Director of Advanced Academics at Ysleta ISD. We oversee all programs that relate to advanced academics from TSI, SAT, dual credit, on-ramps, AP, pre-AP, SAT, and PSAT. So we're a small department, but we oversee a lot of the really important programs in our district. And my left and right hand, as I call her, Ms. Barragan, will introduce herself.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Terry Barragan. I have been with the Ysleta District for almost 28 years. And over that time, I've overseen regular 9th through 12th grade EOC. And then I made the switch to be part of the two-man band with Richard. And we oversee advanced academics. And one of our biggest projects was, of course, where is the world outside of EOC? And that's where we kind of teamed up really, really well. And it's kind of been our big scope of there's a world beyond STAR. There's nothing wrong with STAR. We're not going to say that, but that's kind of our living. I wish we had little pictures of it. You know, there's a world beyond STAR to get kids college ready.
Great, thank you both. And before we jump into the core of our conversation, Richard, do you mind just speaking a little bit about, who is Ysleta Independent School District and, what you do and all that good stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are a medium-sized district, about a little more than 34,000 students. Like many urban districts, we're in declining enrollment. So I remember we used to at one time be well over 40,000 students, and then we're kind of landlocked between two other larger districts. So our enrollments could slowly decline. So we have the struggle of maintaining that we have to keep our students that we have and always grow as well. And so part of our commitment has been always college readiness being our showcase. We have 7 comprehensive high schools. Within those comprehensive high schools, 3 of them have early colleges, and we have 1 standalone college. We also have a Young Women's Leadership Academy, so a standalone high school just dedicated to our girls. 95% Hispanic Latino, which makes sense for El Paso, which is about 89% Latino in the city. 78% of our students are emergent bilingual. We have about 18% of our students that are special education. After COVID, we did switch to a year-round educational model. So we do have intersessions in March and October, and we have a little bit shorter summers than the traditional model. We did just get as everybody did, the court case that in a lawsuit against TEA just ended. So everybody got their accountability for 2023 for the very first time in our district's history. We were proud to receive a post-secondary readiness distinction by TEA. It's the first time we've ever earned that as an entire district. And I think we're the only one in our region that received one of those. And then for the last 4 years, we've led the region in CCMR accountability. We are projecting for our last full data for 2023, 89% of our students hit CCMR accountability. For class of 2024, it's projected to be about 92% of them. And then hopefully class of 2025 is even better. So we've done a really extensive job in growing our CCMR, and we'd love to share with you some of the things that we're doing in our district that we're working and some of the challenges we faced.
Great, thank you, Richard. So I think that's a good segue into this next slide about, what challenges Ysleta faced. And, can you speak a little bit about to those and what your goals were when you partnered with MasteryPrep, and also when exactly that partnership began?
Well, kind of our goals were just like anybody else, increase the number, of students in grades 8 through 11 to meet the benchmarks ready. And of course, we want them to be college ready so that they can be ready for any advanced courses. I mean, that is kind of our goal. Every kid deserves to be in some type of challenging course. Lots of kids, and we do believe in Si Se Puede. That is our model. Kids can get ahead of the game, can be college ready, but it does take someone to believe in them, somebody to work with them, and that's kind of our goal. And the other thing is to increase the number of students that are college ready. We have and doing so, we're going to decrease our classes or our courses in our college readiness, the college prep course that we have, the House Bill 5 course. We want to diminish those classes so that kids and our teachers can teach advanced courses, can teach the courses that they love, take the classes that they love, instead of sitting in these remedial classes. So some of the challenges that we have been facing is high teacher turnaround. At first, you had standard teachers, one teacher per campus teaching the English or the math part. And when the campuses started seeing that this was a valuable course or there was more implications and more importance to it, with the awareness of TSI and college readiness, we started seeing more teachers coming in and out of the classes. So there's still high turnovers. 2 or 3 teachers are teaching the course, the college prep or House Bill 5 course at each section, which is math and English. And so that's been kind of our little challenge, having to teach them and train them what is TSI. So that's kind of our thing. I don't know TSI. I don't know what to do. Those are kind of our things. The other thing is the need for resources. There's lots of resources out there. So we needed to streamline. Okay, this is what we're going to use, and this is how we're going to use it. The how and the what. Now, teachers will say, well, I don't like it. Have you tried it? Kind of buying into that. So we really have been making a conscious effort of making sure that they utilize the resources that we deem and we feel are beneficial. And again, there's lots of things out there. The AccuPlacer College Board does not put a lot of information. There's only one practice test. So we needed something that the teachers could come in and say, okay, I might not know this, but I have this guide that will help me, be better at this, will help me lead the charge. I can teach, but I don't know this test. And teachers are very funny that way. They have to know the test. They have to feel comfortable with the test in order to feel comfortable teaching it. And, the state believes that if you teach the standard, the test will take care of itself. So that was kind of what we wanted to do, make sure that they knew what they were teaching and how to teach it.
Great. Thank you for that, Terry. And can you tell me a little bit about, why you decided to turn to MasteryPrep for TSIA2 test prep and what the timeline looked like? And I know your district began, starting with the MasteryPrep boot camp, if you could speak to that a little bit, and then, over time kind of expanded to the full TSIA2 curriculum and some of our other resources. So yeah, if you could just speak to that a little bit, that would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I took over my role as Director of Advanced Academics, our district was already in a partnership with Gear Up for a grant that supported our cohort of students from 7th grade all the way through their graduation in high school, which ended, I believe last year is when it ended. And so I'll be honest, I had never heard of MasteryPrep when I moved to the district, and we already had another vendor that we were using for TSI preparation. And so working with our Gear Up lead, she actually said, I work with this other company. Gear Up has worked with them before, and they do really wonderful boot camps being MasteryPrep. We said, yeah, of course. I mean, the Gear Up grant was covering it. It was free. We absolutely want to do it. And so we're really impressed with the camps. We got good feedback from our schools, our principals, and our students felt that it was very successful. And so we started implementing them. And then once the camps went well, we actually reached out to other districts. We didn't go right away with MasteryPrep and say, okay, well, the camps went well, let's just switch everything and move to MasteryPrep. We did our due diligence. We reached out to some other districts that have had success with TSI, and we said, what are you using to help your district be more successful with TSI? And so after speaking to several districts, they said, we used MasteryPrep for boot camps, we bought some of their workbooks, we've implemented some of their online platforms. And so we actually reached out to MasteryPrep. They flew down to El Paso, gave us a nice presentation about the resources that they had. And what I really liked about it is that they're still growing as a company, and they were still willing to listen to us. They weren't such an established vendor that they said, well, this is the product we have and this is what we're going to give you, use it or don't use it. We're not really going to adjust for you guys. They were more than willing to say, this is what we can build for you. These are the reports that we have. What are you looking for? And so the allowability of customization and what we were able to purchase with them and able to work with them and to build what our district truly needed is kind of what led us to making that investment. And so we started off with an investment of buying some workbooks, the online platform, and we started integrating them first with our college prep courses, our math and English. And then as we saw success in that, we saw some usage of that, we decided, hey, what else can we do? And then that's when we started expanding more of those resources into other courses, like our Algebra 2, our English 3, and then really integrating more of our boot camps and our intersession times being in October and March. So at this point, it's a full integration of Mastery Prep that we feel is really being helpful because we're all kind of speaking the same language.
Right. And I know your district also added some solutions for the digital SAT in addition to the TSIA2. So can you speak to what drove that decision and what that experience has been like for Ysleta?
Yeah, absolutely. So like I said, when we purchased the platform, one of the things we said is if we're going to move vendors or kind of change the way we do provide our resources for TSI prep, we also need for SAT because in our district, our students take the SAT, all of our students take the SAT at school as juniors. And so that was one of the things that we said is we need TSI support, but we also need SAT support. So we were able to purchase the online platform that gave our students access to mock exams, adaptive mock exams for both TSI and SAT, as well as a digital study plan platform that allowed us to be able to integrate that. I'll be honest, most of our effort has been around TSI because our students have the opportunity to test from 8th grade all the way to 12th grade. So that's where our focus is. But what we're realizing is SAT can be such a wonderful resource to help eliminate more testing for TSI if our kids do well enough on the SAT. So really our plans is to continue to integrate more SAT practice, especially in classes like geometry, which is our 11th grade math, and English 3, where teachers don't have the accountability of end of course exams. So they have a little more freedom to be able to integrate uh, exam preparation for college readiness, such as TSI or SAT. And really more than anything else, we really try to find ways to have it driven by teachers instead of students by themselves. One of the things we realized from our previous vendor that we worked a lot with is it was very self-guided for students. And if a student's motivated, they'll do great on it. But if a student doesn't really have the motivation to practice for it or doesn't know how to practice for it, it's kind of hit or miss. Where with Mastery Prep, so many of the lessons and so much of the resources is designed in a way where a teacher guides the students and then slowly allows them to work independently. And that's what we've really loved is the ability to have our teachers lead the discussion and the preparation and then allow students to practice once they've given the instructions they need to be successful in the practice.
Great, thank you for that. And just one more thing, Richard, if you could just speak a little bit more about, because we're speaking a lot about teachers and integrating best practices into their instruction. What was the value of the professional development for teachers for
Yeah,
TSIA2, and what was the experience like for
absolutely.
Ysleta?
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of what Terry talked about, like when we first started, we had very few of our teachers and even our administrators that had a deep comprehension of what TSI is. And so to ask them to have students prepare for that without any kind of professional development, without any kind of training was really unfair. And so one of the first things we really started doing was really getting out the messaging as a district as to what is TSI, what is college readiness, what does it mean? So we went through an entire year where we actually just trained everybody on college readiness and TSI. But then once we started getting into the more granular level of actually preparing for TSI and what is the exams, we worked with Mastery Prep to bring in trainers to actually provide professional development on the workbooks, the platform, and then the integration of it. How do you fit it in? Okay, Algebra 2 doesn't just become a TSI class. English 3 doesn't become a TSI class. They need to have ways to be able to integrate within the TEKS that they have to cover test preparation. And so one of the things I mentioned previously is how MasteryPrep's been really wonderful in customizing to what we need. One of the things we requested is, can you take the TEKS covered in Algebra 1, Algebra 2, Geometry, and English 3, and look at them and tell us which of those TEKS that have to be covered in those classes are actually on the TSI. And then what they did is they took those actual TEKS and the TSI lessons that MasteryPrep's created and created for us like a little launch pad where as a teacher is actually teaching a certain TEK that they have to cover in their content, there is links to TSI preparation that integrates MasteryPrep. So it becomes a natural fit, but that only happens when we have professional development come in and train our teachers on how that can work. And that's the one thing that we have to do is make that investment that we're not going to throw you out on an island and say, now go teach TSI that you've never heard of. We have to train our teachers on the platform and the resources, and most importantly, the integration within their instructional day of how they can fit TSI practice.
And I think even then, Richard, even with that, all the training that MasteryPrep had done, it's like anything else. When you have new teachers with a new resource, I need to see it in practice. I need to see, okay, what is this going to look like? You're telling me this is what I need to do. So we would provide teacher training. Okay, you're my student. I'm going to pretend I'm the teacher. We're going to take that dual role. You're going to watch me with two lenses, the teacher and the PD, and as a student going through the lessons and kind of mimicking what a classroom setting would look like. And that was probably a game changer for them because, okay, oh, that's how I do it. Because they're like, what's this book? And then sometimes teachers, again, it takes them a while to, 1 or 2 years to get familiar and be comfortable because it's something new, like anything else. And they needed to see it modeled. So we've been willing to model anything for them.
And I'll tell you, I'm just going to add in there, we as a lot of people, Terry does most of it. Terry's been amazing at it. We do this thing called Maximizing May in our district where we literally do trainings to kind of front load for next year or to get students ready for, okay, we finished STAR and state exams. Let's do some preparation for TSI because we have one more month of school left and we're not just going to sit there doing nothing. And the amount of trainings we've had this month is, I've lost count. We have trainings almost every single day. And Terry's just been wonderful. We don't have a dedicated math person in our department. And she's English background, but she's been able to work with both our English department and our math department to provide trainings to really make sure that all teachers feel at least somewhat comfortable or pretty like confident in their ability to prepare kids for TSI.
And I think also, Jordan, that one of the things that we've had sometimes in summer school or when we have summer school or intersession, there's teachers that don't want to volunteer to do those boot camps, the 2-day teacher-led camps. But with the MasteryPrep, we've had soccer coaches who have come in and said, okay, tell me what I need to do. The book is so detailed that they could actually do it. And I think that's a selling point. I mean, for me, it was like, okay, our teachers don't know TSI. Sometimes their schedules are changing, and at the last minute, I have to teach this class. I don't know what it is. I don't even know TSI. And this was a useful resource. It's become their little mini Bible. So they should really it is the scripted, which I liked because it does tell them, okay, you don't know what this is. If you prep ahead, it'll tell you exactly what you need to do. You'll even learn about the TSI even if it's not your content. Now, math is a little tricky. I mean, because you have to know your math a little bit. But somebody who has a good foundation in math could actually do it with the guidance of the MasteryPrep book.
Great. Thank you both for sharing that. I'm going to move on to the next slide, which is what else has Ysleta done in addition to MasteryPrep in terms of, preparing students for the TSIA2. And I know Ysleta does a lot of different things, with MasteryPrep and beyond MasteryPrep. If you could just speak to each of these points, starting with the intersession camps that you hold for TSI.
Well, we have, of course, we're a year-round district. So we have intersession in March, October, and then of course we have the week-long, 2 weeks in summer. And we have 1 or 2, 3 days. I think it's 3 days, it depends. 2 days of teacher-led lessons, and again, it's geared, what do your kids need? And we pull out our bubble kids. These are the kids that are just right there on the cusp to go ahead and pass. We provide them these are the lessons that you should cover if the students need help with grammar. These are the lessons if the students need help with the essay writing. These are the lessons if they need help with the certain aspects of the multiple choice based on data. So we provide that. And then MasteryPrep would come in a third day, do the quick test taking strategy, and then of course they test. And the same thing with the math. So that is one model. The other thing is a distributed testing model. We have provided a testing calendar. Richard has created a year-long calendar where within the district, these are the weeks that we have designated for certain grade levels to test. Now, that doesn't mean that they can't test any other time other than the designated week, but that's when we pull our data. And Richard is very good about sharing that data, updating the spreadsheet with our campuses, and it keeps them informed. Okay, this is the number of students that you have at this grade level. Class of 2025, you increased by 10 students. This campus increased by 20 students, and then they can have those conversations when they meet as an admin team. So those are designated. But we have it from 8th grade, Algebra 2. Now we included pre-Algebra 1 at the end of the school English. Pre-Algebra 1, English 1. No, let me take it back. Pre-AP, English 1 and English 2. They're taking it here in May. And then we have, of course, our English 3 throughout the year. And then we have our Algebra 2, they can take it throughout the year, our college prep courses. And then, of course, we're incorporating geometry next year, and that's going to continue. So again, and then anybody else, if the teachers feel that a student is ready, put them on the list. Let's go ahead and let's get them going. Now, the teacher meetings about MasteryPrep integration, we constantly have quarter trainings. Every quarter we have a training with a specific group, and we have, okay, how is it working? What are you doing? These are suggestions to help you with these particular issues. This is what we know. This is your data. This is how it's helping. And so that's what we're doing. We're constantly giving them and providing it into the training. Now, with the college prep courses, we provide them the lessons that they should do on a weekly basis, because again, sometimes I have teachers that are new into the content or into that test grade level, and they need a little bit more guidance. So the other thing, we love to celebrate success here at Ysleta. That's what we're called, the district. For the first time ever, college students that are graduating the class of 2025 will be earning a college readiness cord, bright purple, so it stands out, and they'll be able to wear that during their graduation. So that has been a great thing. The other thing, schools have been really, really creative as to how they're celebrating the kids. They're offering their incentives. They're offering like prom tickets, yearbooks, enters into a raffle, entries into the parking spaces, the principal's parking spaces. Principals are offering that. So, just really cool ideas that they're doing. Those are kind of the things that we're doing here. Did I miss any of the celebrations, Richard?
No, Terry, the one thing I want to add, Jordan, I think has been really helpful for us that districts should actually consider is, so most districts do data digs when it comes to STAR data or EOC. And one of the things that we integrated is a TSI, well, not TSI, college readiness data dig. So we actually visit campuses twice a year, and we show them their data and we say, okay, this is your percentage of your seniors, juniors, freshmen, sophomores that are already college ready through either SAT, TSI, or ACT. How many of your kids are bubble kids that are within the 10 points or less of hitting the benchmark? And we kind of show them their data and say, okay, this is your data. What is your plans as a campus to get more of these kids college ready before the end of the semester or in the spring before the end of the year? The first time we did it, it was mostly driven by us. We gave the ideas, we gave them some things that they did, some tips. When we did it in the spring, we once again gave them the data, but we said, you're going to lead the entire discussion yourselves. We're not there to present. We're going to give you the data, and then you guys as a group take back the data, spend a few weeks with your leadership teams, with your coaches, your APs, your teachers, and come up with a plan for how do you plan to be more successful in the spring semester with the kids that still haven't met the college readiness benchmarks. And so that was a really eye-opening thing because it forced our campuses to take real accountability for their data and come up with their own plans, because while we don't have a ton of high schools, we have about 10 high schools. Each of them are very unique and they each have their own solutions and problems that they have to deal with. And we wanted to give them the opportunity to create what's right for them. And that, I think that's been something that's been very successful. And as Terry said, the college readiness court is something that is not an overly expensive idea, but things motivate kids that might not motivate us as adults. But just something simple as saying, I'm graduating college ready in reading and math through either the TSI, SAT, or ACT. And as a result of the fact that I'm college ready in both subjects, I get to wear a cord that a lot of other kids might not get to wear. And that's something that's really been, we think is going to be a game changer for us. It's slowly been kids getting excited. I even had a kid come visit me in the class in my office last week and say, oh my God, like I passed. I really want this cord. Let me show you my results. Can you please talk to my AP to make sure I get my cord? That's how much that little cord meant to them. So it is different ways and different things, but we're slowly making progress in the right direction.
Great, thank you both. And it's nice to hear, what else you're doing beyond just implementing MasteryPrep to boost college readiness in your district. And that's a good segue into this next slide. I'm curious to learn more about what your district-wide implementation has looked like. And we can start from the top here. I know you both have spoken about, getting buy-in from across the district. So what does that look like in terms of your MasteryPrep implementation?
Yeah, I'll start before we get into the MasteryPrep. I'll be honest, nothing good happens without buy-in, and that's the truth. No matter what the changes, whether it be college readiness or something else, the thing that I'm most grateful for in our district, and I think the thing that the audience needs to be aware of is all of our ideas might be great or they might be okay, but they don't happen without the support of our leadership. So from the top down, there's really been a lot of support for making college and career readiness a focal point of our district. It's not just, okay, STAR, EOC, that's the only thing that matters. It's now viewed in the same equal playing field as those exams, and it's slowly getting there. And so when it's viewed that way from our leadership and they give it that much importance, it trickles down to principals. Principals trickle it down to their administrators, and eventually gets down to obviously teacher level. And is it 100%? No, it's not 100%, but it's changing, and it's changing that culture to get the belief that, hey, our kids have to have more than just the state exams. They have to be prepared for what happens after high school. And whether that be career, military, or college, we don't really care. We just want them to have the skills and the plan needed for life after high school. So that's the big buy-in. The other thing is teacher-friendly integration is we really worked with our teachers to say, you're not going to be on an island. I know it's, as we like to say, we moved your cheese. You went from not having to worry about TSI and maybe never even have heard of TSI or SAT to now it's an integral part of your course. But the only way that that happens is by continuous professional development, continuous support, visiting classrooms, giving feedback, talking about it on a consistent basis, talking with their administrators about it, making sure our testing coordinators understand it, our counselors understand it. So it is literally the whole, what do you call it? The common phrase, it takes a village. It really does take a village. It's like if everybody's not speaking the same language, it just doesn't work. And so that's the biggest thing. And then building a college going culture, that's like I said, one of our things that we oversee in our department is our goal center. So it's constantly getting the kids to understand, to do presentations and go into the classroom and say, the TSI is not just another test. We're not just pulling you out to take a test for the sake of taking a test. We actually built flyers explaining how the TSI can be important for kids that are going to college. It can be useful for kids who are going into the military. It can be useful for kids who are going straight into career. And it explains that the skills that are tested in that exam are valuable skills for no matter what course of life you follow after high school. And so it's building that culture of understanding that when you get pulled for this, it's not just kids need to know why. If they don't know why, they're not going to care. And is it perfect right now? No, absolutely not. It's not perfect. But more and more kids are seeing from 8th grade on, sometimes as early as 7th grade, what TSI is. So that by the time they take it freshman, sophomore, junior year, it's been ingrained in them. And they're not questioning why they're taking the TSI. Now it's just, how can I make sure I'm ready to pass it? And then lastly, we are a data-driven district. So everything we do revolves around data. We don't just test for the sake of testing. We've moved away from this thing of, okay, we have 400 juniors. All 400 juniors are testing on April whatever or May whatever date. It's now when a kid's ready, we test them. We use mock exam data from MasteryPrep. We use the reports that we get from MasteryPrep. We use our own data from these incredible dashboards that our director of accountability uses creates for us that are really detailed dashboards where we can pin down which kids are just missing the essay, which kids are just missing the multiple choice, which kids are within 10 points of the benchmark. And then we provide all that data to our campus and say, make a plan to test these kids when they need to be tested. Don't put it off. Every month you should be testing. That's why we have that calendar. And then every month we provide data to our principals and assistant principals and say, this is how many more of your kids are now college ready. This is how low maybe your freshman class is. Have you even started testing those kids yet? Because what we don't want is to wait until kids are juniors and seniors for the first time they test. So we're consistently using data to ensure that every grade level is constantly being given an opportunity to prove college readiness, which just opens up more doors to dual credit classes and other advanced courses. That is really the goal of our district, is to have kids taking those classes.
Great. And I think that's a good segue into talking a little bit more about outcomes that your district has experienced. And I usually like to look at outcomes from kind of what you were alluding to in the last slide. You have your quantitative outcomes, which we'll talk about in a minute, and which you can kind of get a preview of from this graph here. But there's also the qualitative outcomes, you know, the college going culture you were talking about, Richard. So yeah, can you tell me a little bit about, you know, you implemented MasteryPrep, you implemented these other test prep strategies, which you discussed earlier. So what were the outcomes you experienced?
Well, kind of the things, the data speaks for itself. We have more students that are scoring college ready. When we look at our data right now, and it's not the end of 2025 school year, we're already exceeding where we were last year at the end of 2024. So that says a lot. And then since we have quite a bit of awareness throughout the district with various campuses, we're testing more kids, more kids that would not have been tested until maybe, their senior year. But now with the early colleges, look at the numbers, 43 to 60 something. That's a big deal. Our regular high schools, Hanks High School, they're testing more kids, and they're testing kids, on a regular basis. They have a set schedule, every Tuesday. They're by teacher recommendation, and so forth, by the programs that they're using. They're nominating kids or recommending kids to go ahead and be tested. And so the numbers are increasing. And that is a big deal. Again, the culture is changing at the campuses. Instead of just speaking STAR or EOC, they're speaking TSI. Are our kids college ready? And there's some campuses that they're college ready because of SAT. They used a MasteryPrep program for the SAT portion of it this year. For the first time, they had another tool that they could go ahead and use. So that was very helpful. The other thing is growth in 2025. We are not even done testing the number of kids that we're expected to test. We're testing our freshmen this year, our freshman English classes, sophomore English classes. So we're expecting to have way more growth in this year. And again, because we have instilled the why. Why is it important for TSI? Why is it important for college readiness? Why is it important to have our kids test early, to give those kids those opportunities in those advanced courses? And if they want to go into a specific job, they're going to be they're more than ready. They have those particular things. And then again, we have teacher buy-in. And that they're part of the team. Like Richard said, it takes a village. The village is coming together. And that is a big testament to Richard's, really going out there and speaking to the admin, speaking to our associates, to speaking to, our other specialists and the other high school academics, to show the importance of it and really putting out the same message. We just give the same message.
Yeah, and the one thing I'll add, and Terry's absolutely right, is we still have a long way to go. Like we're nowhere near where our ultimate goal is, but when we started this journey, so the first set of data we had was class of 2022. Our class of 2022, we graduated 19% of our senior class college ready. We are now at almost about 32% of our seniors already for class of 2025 are college ready, which is nowhere where we want to be. Obviously, it's still only a third of our kids, but in what, 4 years, we've gone from less than 20% of our kids to 32%, and we still have about another week of testing to do for our seniors. So our hope is to end up somewhere in the 33, 34% of our seniors will graduate college ready. And when I mean college ready, I mean SAT, TSI, or ACT, not including college prep courses, because we don't count those. We include, it's just those three exams. That's how we have true college readiness across both math and English. And then our goal next year is try to get to 40%. I mean, that's ultimately every year is just try to get up higher, because we want to make sure that every one of our kids is fully ready for whatever their next path in life is after high school.
Great. Thank you both for that. Let's move on here. And yeah, so thank you both for your insights and for sharing Ysleta's success story. I also just wanted to take a minute to highlight our test prep resources and products available for the TSIA2. So we offer professional development for teachers, a mastery-based curriculum that instructors or educators can integrate into their instruction on a day-to-day basis, adaptive practice testing and online courses within the MasteryPrep platform, daily bell ringers, or 5-minute short warm-up exercises that teachers can use in their classroom, and intensive boot camps as well. And I'm going to drop some links in the chat regarding our test prep solutions for different Texas assessments, state required assessments for the TSIA2 specifically, and also just an overview published on our blog of Ysleta's success story as well. So I'm going to send those to the chat now. And if you want to contact us directly to learn more about anything, feel free to use the forms on those web pages and we'll be in touch. And now I'm going to move on to questions. I did see one come in, and the question is, does MasteryPrep offer professional development and boot camps in the online format in addition to in person? And the answer to that question is yes, and definitely can provide more information on that. If you want to drop your email in the chat, I'll be sure to reach out to you later today. And thank you again, Richard and Terry, for sharing those insights, and to everyone who joined the webinar today. Like I said, I've added some links to the chat, so be sure to check those out. We'll also be sharing this webinar recording via email in the coming days for easy access. And in the meantime, feel free to visit our website, read our blog, follow us on LinkedIn to learn more about MasteryPrep and what we do, and get company updates on a regular basis. And that's a wrap for this webinar. So thanks again, Richard and Terry, and everyone have a great rest of your day.